He couldn't vote for budget and finance because we didn't give the proper notice required by the governor's order, so he said he's just going to watch on Facebook, so he couldn't vote. Because I had to say, I was getting ready to set it up, and I told him we can't vote because we didn't get the public notice and let them know where they can go.
Like the TVA deal, I heard that's right.
I love it. I love that.
Okay, y'all ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to call the steering committee work session to order. I'll get it straight one of these days. Work session. I want to go over our agenda for next Monday night. Is the reason we're here tonight. Our invocation this month will be by Commissioner Whitaker, and our pledge by Mr. Dickey, and we'll have a roll call, of course, and then the minutes were in your packet. Did anyone notice anything wrong with those? Any corrections that need to be made? Any additions, deletions, corrections? And read through them. If you do see something, let Amy know. We can have them corrected before next week's meeting, if that's okay. Announcements, I have none at the present time. Mayor, do you have anything under announcements we need to make note of?
I can go ahead and announce some things here I was going to do under mayor's report.
Before you do it then, are there any meetings this week that we need to make sure that we announce, make people aware of?
EMS on Thursday.
Thursday night at 7?
I can't remember.
There's a law enforcement.
I believe it is 7.
Parks and Rec. Law enforcement Thursday.
Law enforcement at 6 and emergency services at 7, I believe.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec tomorrow night.
Parks and Rec is tomorrow night at 6. 7.
Yeah.
So, please let us know when you schedule a meeting after you. I had no idea until the other day.
Love it, see?
So Parks and Rec, what time? 6. And law enforcement?
7.
Y'all said 7.
And then on the calendar, it says emergency services Thursday at 6.
Yeah.
And law enforcement's at 7.
Right.
Right.
I think we have industrial board tomorrow at 5.
Yes.
For all those that are on the employed personnel, I talked to Vicki today, and we were talking about some of the topics that they've been working on, such as the automatic payments, all that stuff. She said they were still working on it, so the mayor mentioned that earlier. So I don't know that we have to meet because that's about all we got to update on here, what she said.
All right. You received your agenda in the packet. Are there anything to be added to the agenda? Taking off, Mayor, do you have anything to add that we didn't have on there?
One issue under the appointments will be fire chief. I have spoken to the candidate. I'm supposed to meet with him tomorrow morning.
Okay. So do you think we'll have that for Monday night?
We'll have to see what he says.
Okay. Okay. All right. Then we'll move into asking citizens to respond to any agenda items. Dr. Satterfield will give his quarterly report. He was out of town last month. He actually got back in time to have been able to do it, but he didn't let me know that, so he took it off the agenda. So he will go over that with us. He did go over it with the Education Committee, and nothing of any great import other than they're working on the school routes and things like that. We'll report on that. Let us know where he's standing at the end of the first quarter financially. It looked very good. Their revenues were above budget and their expenditures were under budget. So far so good. But he's also wanting more money. Mayor Chambers.
I've got 12 items on here I'll cover. The first 3 are some of the grants we've discussed through various committees here at the commission. First one is the local Parks and Recreation Fund grant. That's what we were going to submit to do some inclusive play equipment and ADA improvements at the park. We had submitted that for our pre-application, which TDEC looks at it and says whether or not you were going to be accepted into the application round for 2020, which would make our deadline December 7th, or if we were going to be in the application round for 2021, which would make our deadline, I think, August 7th of 2021. They had originally said we were going to be August, and some of their notes they sent us as to what their issues were the pre-application. Myself, Miss Ellie contacted the gentleman at TDEC, and we went over it. It basically came down to, because the playground is called Trey Park and the park is called Hartsville City Park, they thought we had 2 parks, and our master plan didn't cover 2 parks, it only covered 1 park. So we had to let them know that Trey Park is actually the playground inside the city park, and so it is actually all covered by the master plan. And then there were some other issues about labeling things. And also they found on Google that it says the lot 6 is Trousdale County Park, and why did we not include that? I had to let them know that is overgrown, and there is nothing that happens there that is core property, the county has nothing to do with it. So I sent them a history of, here's a website talking about here's the history of old lot 6. And if you look at the satellite picture and not just the overall view that just shows you a map with no actual pictures to it, you can zoom in and see that it is overgrown and not used. So based on our feedback from Ms. Ellie and myself and some changes to some information and labeling of things, they did accept us into the 2020 round, which means we've got December 7th to get our application in. I will tell you right now, this is one of those issues where it's be careful what you wish for, because once we got access to the application, oh my God. There is things in there. We have to have 2 public meetings by December 6th. And I have to go through various committees and civic organizations by December 7th. So I don't know if we're going to be able to meet that or not. We have to also create a presentation permit to all these boards, and we have to put a notice on a board at the park where we're going to be doing all these work. So there is a a lot of work still to go on that application. We're going to work as hard as we can to get it all in, but it's going to be very difficult. So we'll start scheduling those meetings tomorrow and try to get those advertised on the website and Facebook and get all those lined up.
Mr. Wall?
Mayor, do you think as a county we've grown enough to where we could look at hiring a grant writer for that? Or is there not enough we've got going on to justify that salary?
If you start trying to find other grants, you might be able to find things that would justify hiring a grant writer, though some of these grants will actually let you use somebody else to write them for you, or Greater Natural Regional Council will assist us in some of them. This is just outside the purview. There's other ones that have assisted us with, and the next one I'm going to talk about, this organization we're a part of actually wrote the application for us. We didn't have to do it.
Okay.
But a lot of this stuff is just information I had to get together. It's information on the property and maps and all. I mean, there were some maps we couldn't generate, but almost everything else for the pre-application we could do ourselves. It's just that since we didn't find out until today that we were accepted into the 2020 round, it got to them today until December 20th to have 2 public meetings, 2 meetings with civic organizations that are willing to accept your things, put together a presentation to present to all these people, and have documentation that you've done all this. So it's just, by the time they let us know, it's such a short time period. It's not nothing we couldn't have done without the grant writer. It's just that the timeline by the time we were notified until we got to submit it is such a truncated time.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the local Parks and Recreation Fund grant? The second grant is a multi-modal grant. That's to do the sidewalks on Broadway from where the streetscape ended up to the intersection of Broadway and McMurray Boulevard. We did remove a section that is on from Hartsville Goodyear up to the intersection of McMurray and Broadway. The side that was on the road with Sonic, we took that out, given that there was a lot of those $300,000 worth of work that had to be done there. And it would have been over the grant cap, so the state would not have covered some of that additional expense. So we took that section out, given the difficulty working with it, got it down to where we would meet the state's cap, so that would be the state, if this project goes through, the state will pay for 95% of it, the county only has to pay for 5%. The county commission, that's what we had to call a meeting for. You did support a resolution to put in the up to $50,000 match for the county. We did get that submitted on time. Actually, they extended it after we submitted it. They originally had November 6th. They had some issues on their online portal submitting that. They gave us to November 9th. We did get submit that, and that was largely done by the Upper Cumberland Rural Planning Organization, which we go through for planning, for transportation. They're kind of our go-through to get projects in front of TDOT. They have to rank them and all that. Their staff did assist us with that greatly, and one of their technical committee members, Chris Ballou of Midtown Engineering, he come up with the budget for it and everything at no cost to the county. So we really appreciate their work on that. So that has been submitted. It's going into their scoring matrix, and hopefully we'll know maybe December or January how we scored on that. The third grant is also related to the park, and that is the Built Environment Grant. This one is done through the Tennessee Department of Health. It is up to an $80,000 grant and has 100% state funds. What we submitted was resurfacing of the tennis courts because they're cracked pretty badly and some of the markings has come off. And as it went through the planning for the master plan, one of the things that came out is some of the groups wanted to have one of the tennis courts set aside to create 2 pickleball courts, and the Senior Citizen Center said that they would start using it if it could be set aside as pickleball courts. So that's something we were included in there, and that estimate for that work was $60,000, so we should be $20,000 under the $80,000 match. So that way we have a little bit of leeway in case we come over. But so those are the 3 grants that we submitted here lately. Of course, that does not take into account anything we submitted for the CARES Act to get reimbursement on that, because that's something completely different. But those are the 3 main grants we've dealt with here in the last 2 or 3 weeks. They all have to, their deadlines happen to be real close to each other. So that was a lot of work done by the mayor's staff. Kimberly Horn helped us with the local Parks and Recreation Fund grant. And of course, Mr. Dudley with the RPO. So I really thank and appreciate all their assistance. It helped greatly. Is there any questions on the Built Environment Grant? Next item I've got is the fire chief. I discussed that a little while ago. We had the interviews for the fire chief candidate. We only had 1 candidate. That was done on November 5th. There were 3 fire chiefs, one from White House, one from Baxter, and one from Franklin, Kentucky, that did the scoring on that, and that was done under Mr. Cross from MTAS. I got the report on that. I was able to review that last Tuesday. I have a scheduled meeting with the candidate tomorrow morning. That was the first opening I had on my calendar. I had trainings and stuff all last week, and of course we had a holiday, so that took away 1 day. And then after I speak with the candidate, and then we'll see about making a nomination to the county commission, and I'll know after that meeting. Is there any questions on the fire chief? The next thing is the streetscape. They were supposed to come in and start planting the landscaping last week. However, their supplier did not get their plants and trees and everything to them, so they're supposed to start this week. They're supposed to let me know about a definite time start date this week. I haven't heard from them today. If I don't hear something by afternoon tomorrow, I'm going to call the contractor and see if they have more of an update for me. The next item I've got is I'd like to welcome our new District 4 County Commissioner, Lonnie Taylor, to the County Commission. Congratulate him on his election. I look forward to working with Mr. Taylor. He has already been helpful on an item that the Communication Committee has asked us to look into, and that's trying to get streaming capabilities and public PA system into the upstairs courtroom. So we've had a meeting with that with our IT firm, Artis, and also another committee member, DJ Linville, streamed in via Zoom to that meeting. And so I think that it went very, very well. Hopefully we'll be making progress on that. It probably kind of slowed during the holidays, but we're working on getting our RFP together so we can bid that out sometime early next year. But I was very, very encouraged by all the feedback we got, and it seemed like it's very doable. It's just getting the RFP put together for the equipment that we're looking at. Next item is the courthouse floor on the lower level. That was actually supposed to start last week, however, the installer tested positive for COVID, so that has set us back greatly. He did send an email, a text message to Mr. Slee earlier today, and Mr. Slee forwarded on to me about 4:30 that he should be able to be back at it by either Monday or Tuesday of next week. And so they're looking at completion sometime around mid-December. Mr. Edwards has hired his assistant in his office, and it's Ms. Rosalie Mahan. I'm sure most people are familiar with her. She's done a lot of work on various organizations in the past, and so I want to welcome her to the administration building as Mr. Edwards' new assistant. The community Thanksgiving done by the Chamber of Commerce is tomorrow. That is going to be doing mainly meals for emergency responders, sheriff's department, and also working with Meals on Wheels to get meals to people who are homebound. So if you have any donations or anything, you can contact Natalie Knudsen. They're looking for donations to help cover expenses. They're getting meals provided by, I think it's Piggly Wiggly's Deli is doing the meals, and then some other organizations help funding some other things. So if you want to make a donation to help cover the expenses of that and pay for that meal, just contact Ms. Knudsen and she can let you know where to send your donations to. Mr. Beller has been working with County Technical Assistance Service to set up an Open Meetings Act training. The date that was proposed by CPAS is December 14th at 10 a.m. I told Mr. Beller I don't know that that's a good date. However, I'll bring it to the commission and see what your thoughts were. It's either December 14th at 10 a.m. and it can be done virtually using Zoom, or we could look at a date in January that might be able to accommodate people's schedule better. So I'll entertain feedback right now from the commission members about which one you prefer.
And what
That's a Monday.
class is that? What training?
It's a training that's put together to discuss the Open Meetings Act. That's dealing with notifying the public of the meeting, and then what you can and can't say to each other outside of the meeting, those issues.
Yeah.
Like I said, that training is set up. They proposed December 14th at 10 a.m. and that could be done online. It's going to be online, either Zoom or some other program that they got that you can access. Or if the commission would rather do it sometime in January, that might be a little bit better for everyone's schedule, you can do that as well. But I want to bring it to the commission tonight and see what your thoughts were on it.
I think it'd be better to do it in January.
Either way, either month, we're going to do it, I'm sure, during the day, so.
Do we think this will be an hour, 2 hours? How long do we think this will be?
I think anywhere from an hour to 2 hours probably. I'd say, but yeah, not that long. But I'm sure there'll be a Q&A too, so just depending on how many.
At least an hour, probably two.
Does it have to be during the day, but it not put it at night?
That was the dates they gave us, so I'll go back to them and I can try to find some January dates in the evening. They're a little short on December dates because of the holidays and everything logged in at the end of the year, so I'll be happy to go back and look at some January evening dates sometime after 5 o'clock, if that's the will of the commission.
I feel like we get better participation if we have it in January. I think we'll have better participation if we have it in the evening, say 6 o'clock, or 6 to 8 or whatnot.
I agree with you. 6 o'clock in the morning would be better because we got a lot of people to work during the day.
Right. Why don't you just get with them and see what you can come up with in January, maybe let us know next Monday night, and we can go ahead and be planning on it. That work?
I'll email tonight.
This is something that we've had a lot of questions and a lot of misunderstanding about, and we kind of sometimes walk the crooked path on, and we've been trying to get this for us for some time now, and I hope everyone will really hard to avail themselves with the opportunity to learn. Not only is it an opportunity for you, but I look at it as your responsibility. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I did. So thank you for all the work you've done so far trying to make this happen, and we'll look forward to having this.
The next item is discussing the Sports Gaming Act. Mr. Naumer had asked about this at one of the prior commission meetings. He also asked about the budget committee meeting. And the Sports Gaming Act became effective this November 1st of this year. The funds from any online gaming platform are paid into the state, and then the monies are paid out to cities and counties using your last federal census numbers. So it's done per capita. The funds that are given to the local government can only be used for local infrastructure projects, which include transportation and road projects and public building. And that it's probably going to be a while before we start seeing those revenues, so that's what CTAS is letting us know. It's not like you're going to see a whole lot of revenue start rolling in immediately because it went into effect November 1st. And that the statute requires that these funds be segregated from your normal general fund, so they recommend either creating or putting them into an existing capital projects fund so you can keep track of those funds a little easier. Yes, sir.
Can it be used to pay debt, on debt?
It cannot be, it says infrastructure projects include without limitation, transportation and road projects and public buildings. I would have to get more confirmation if that can be used to pay for those projects. I would assume it could, since that's an infrastructure project, but I would have to get a little bit more outline about what it definitely can be used for. The only thing that was sent out today with CTAS is basically I highlighted it, and the relevant information is what I've said here tonight. It didn't give anything really beyond that.
What I read along with that said that they received $23 million this month, or this month? Last month.
I didn't see any numbers.
I saw something
this.
that quoted $23 million as the expected amount, or what the expected amount was so far, which is a lot of money, but when you divide it between population by population, it will be money. It will be money. And as we pointed out in the Budget Finance Committee meeting, so many things with the state tends to take a while to trickle down to us, more so than you would think they do. I think we will eventually see it, and how much impact it's going to have, we'll just have to see. The good thing is it's based on population, so if nobody in this county does any online gambling, we're still going to get a share of it. It's not the share of what our people, it's what statewide is. And that makes it all easy for them and their county to figure that out, I would say. Because they'll just they'll get a dollar amount for the whole state and then multiply that percentage times how many people you've got in your county. So once it starts coming in, it's going to be a pretty simple thing. But like so many things the state legislature does, it's subject to big change. So we'll have to just monitor it. One of those don't count your eggs till they hatch kind of thing.
And it says on here that this is it's a 20% privilege tax that's put on companies that operate online sports gaming platforms, and that it is paid from those companies to the Tennessee Education Lottery Corporation. And the Lottery Corporation retains the first 80% to use for education scholarships. They then pay it over to the state treasurer, who distributes it to local governments on a quarterly basis.
I'd say we might, at the end of the first quarter, possibly see something. I wouldn't expect we'd see anything from the end of this one. Maybe.
And of course, I don't know what the numbers are. By the time you get to that, whatever that quarter is going to be, I don't know what 20% of that is going to be that's going to be distributed among the cities and counties based on population. So hopefully if our census goes like we thought it might, we will see an increase after those official census numbers come out, because our 2010 had us at 7,800, and this last estimate before the census was 11,280 something. So hopefully we'll see an increase once those official numbers come in.
We'll say that we have seen a bit of a change of direction with the state legislature in sharing these revenues directly with the counties. in past years, they would have just took this money and did with it what they wanted to. We've seen that with this, we saw that with the internet sales tax. So I'm glad to see that they at least somewhat remember that we're still here and that we're in need of some help on this one.
And the last item I have is the health department is holding a free flu vaccination on Thursday at 11 a.m. and that is at the park over here. So anybody can come, and it's a drive-through, so they'll pull up and they'll give you the vaccination. You got to wait a little bit to see if you have a reaction to it, and then they'll be able to let you go. So that is free and open to the public. So if anyone needs a flu shot and hasn't gotten it already, you can get it at the city park, beginning at 11 a.m. on Thursday. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for the report today.
Anyone have any questions of the mayor about what he thought? Okay. Then our committee reports, the committees that I have noted that have met this month: steering committee met November 5th, budget finance tonight, education on November 9th, emergency services November 19th, insurance met November 5th, law enforcement will meet November 19th. Parks and Rec met the 29th and will also meet tomorrow night. Did we miss any? Were there any other committees that met? Okay. Move into our active business appointments. Fourth District Commissioner Lonnie Taylor has been assigned to the Communications Committee, Insurance Committee, Parks and Recreation Committee, Law Enforcement Committee, and Steering Committee at his request. There's a lot of times things are discussed in the Steering Committee. Felt like it would be a good learning experience for him to be on that committee at this point in time. The others, he had requested all those, and a few others that we whittled it down to these. Housing Board, we have a reappointment of Bobby Satterfield for a 5-year term. Industrial Development Board, Mr. Beeler has resigned that board, and Mayor, you're still in the process of getting...
I am. He is not resigned effective immediately. It'll be effective December 1st.
January 31st. That's what this is.
That's his term.
Oh, okay, that's when the term is. Okay, gotcha. If anyone has any suggestions, please see the mayor. Water Utilities District Board, Mr. Beeler resigned from it. Mayor has recommended Heather Bay to assume that position as the member at large on the Water Utility District Board. Were there any other appointments? Fire Chief possible. Okay. All right. Any questions about those? First, we'll move into our resolutions. The first one is Resolution 2020-27-702. This was to establish and update our OSHA health program plan, set rules, regulations, provide for a safety director, and the implementation of this plan. This is required by federal law and state OSHA. This is pretty much a boilerplate resolution that comes from them. Any questions on it? I think Ms. Vicki worked pretty hard on putting this together, trying to keep us in compliance on these things. I'd like to thank her for that. Okay. Next is Resolution 2020-29704. This is to the personnel policy. We had made a resolution on COVID-related things to the personnel policy. We put an expiration date on that policy at December 31st of this year. We want to extend that, since it looks like we're going to keep going with this COVID thing for a while, for December 31st of next year. We possibly could have done it shorter, but just trying to push it out far enough to get us through the end of this thing. Yes, ma'am.
Does anybody know how many cases we have currently in Trousdale County?
How many cases we have currently have had or have?
Have currently.
I have no idea.
I don't know the number, I don't know today's number. I know our last number was, I believe, 40. It had come down. We had a little bit of spike there for a few days. We had a spike, and then as you start rolling off, you get there 14 days, they start rolling down. So the last number I had was around 40.
And how long ago was that last number?
Friday.
Chris, can you access that data?
I'm trying to look it up now.
We had 1,870,
I'm sorry.
1,870 and 10 deaths was what we had.
That's total.
That's total.
Tested.
But that's not current active cases.
It could be off 7, looking at these.
Well, that's total since they started counting earlier this year.
Those numbers include the prison.
They do.
Yeah, you can't go by that.
I don't know, but they have more cases.
You can't go by that.
Everybody understand what this resolution is and why we're doing it? Okay. Okay, next we'll move into ordinances. We have a second reading and public hearing. We'll open up first for public hearing on an ordinance 206/2021. This is an ordinance to adopt the International Residential Building Codes, the 2018 edition, with certain exclusions. It did pass last month. We did add excluding section R313 fire sprinkler systems, which is the last line of the ordinance. Any questions about that? Okay. Then we have some first readings on some ordinances, on rezoning ordinances. First one is 207/2020-22. This is to rezone a parcel from R1 to R2. This parcel is identified as parcel 11 of tax map 19K Group D. This is a little less than an acre lot. It's located on Halltown Road. R2, in the way the home is situated, it could possibly be redivided to have 2 residences. The zonage is the purpose of this.
So would that be like a duplex?
It's 2 single-family homes in a shotgun style.
Thank you, Sam. Chris?
The report today from Tennessee Department of Health lists 51 active in travel.
51 active cases, right? Okay. Thank you. Thanks for doing that. Any questions about this? This was recommended by the Planning Commission and the Codes Office, and it will be up for first reading. Okay. Next is Ordinance 208/2023. This is a rezoning of A1 agricultural to R1 residential. This is a lot on Highway 231 South. 1 acre lot now.
No,
They're wanting to create a 1 acre lot off of
9 acres.
yes, 9 acres. If you see the map, if you look at the map, they want to cut a 1 acre tract off of that front corner. So they're only requesting that 1 acre be rezoned to R1, not the entire tract, correct? This was recommended by planning. Any questions about it? Okay. Next one is ordinance 209/2020-24. This is parcel 2402, tax map 019K. And this is taking this from C2 to R3. This tract is directly behind Foodland, behind the county administration building. I guess you'd say that open area back there behind the archives building. They're wanting to do some multi-residential in there.
So they've already started building on that?
No, they're trying to rezone it. If the rezoning passes, then they're gonna come forward with a plan.
What's the building that's back there then?
That is a storage unit for, Foodland. Well, the Foodland owner.
Yes, Ms. Butler.
Where's the access to this going to be from?
Hayes Street.
Off of Hayes, a little side street, I forget the name of it, that butts it. You can look at your map in the bottom right corner.
Gotcha.
You will see where it comes straight through there. There is a sufficient right of way to bring an entrance into the center of that property. And it is public right of way, all the way to the property.
And who's going to maintain that?
They will have to build it, I guess, to county road standards before they would expect us to take it over. That would be part of their proposal on their site plan. We have to get the zoning in place first before they can proceed with the site plan approval through the planning commission.
So
Yes, ma'am.
So the R3, that's for apartments, duplexes, townhomes?
Right now, they're planning on, right now the plan is single family, kind of shotgun style, potentially two-story, kind of like those townhomes, just not connected. The townhomes is right there. They just have like a 10-foot barrier in between them. It all depends on what they can, if it gets rezoned, and what they can actually put on it once they get a surveyor out there to decide.
This is your highest density residential zone, which is typically reserved to your interior city limits, where you have adequate services of sewer and fire protection, things of that nature. This is I think planning looked at this and felt like it was a reasonable request for the lot itself. It certainly will generate more tax income than it is sitting there as an empty lot. Any other questions about it? If you do, you think of something later, you have questions, or question comes up from a constituent, just get with Sam. I'm sure he'll be glad to talk to you or talk to them. Okay. I think that takes care of all of our ordinances and resolutions. Getting into budget amendments. All the budget amendments went through budget and finance the last hours. They were all sent forward with a favorable recommendation. 3 deal with the 101 general fund. BA 101-08R is for the senior center. This is taking some of their funds that are committed to the senior center and put them in a line item that they can use them for supplies and materials. This is $3,317. It's not appropriating new funds, it's letting them move it to spend it the way they think that they need to. Any questions about that one? It was recommended by Budget and Finance. Next one is 10109. It's an insurance recovery on county buildings. It's where we got the insurance payment on the leak of the courthouse, no floor damage. Just bringing that money in and putting it into county buildings so we can pay for the repairs. Any questions on it? Next is BA 101-10. Some more senior center funds coming through the CARES Act grant funding. for some supplies, materials, and office equipment, and they're wanting to purchase a new copier. That totaled $8,500. There again, we're just moving funds. Putting it in, letting it go out. Any questions on those? Next is in our 116 solid waste fund. We had a line item budget for a mechanic at the convenience center. Mr. Slee has requested that we move that funding back into laborers instead of a mechanic's position, so that he can hire someone who's in a labor position. Any questions about that? Okay. And then we had a couple from the school funds. The 141 general purpose school fund, one was a $300, I think it was a contribution from what they call U-Trust. They're wanting to put it into the budget and then take it out into office of principal, other supplies and materials. There again, it's 300 in, 300 out. And then also in 141, we had a moving some money in the health services. Had a little carryover money from prior and came in as state funds, and they have to allocate it. They're putting it into health services. For some of the additional costs that they've had, some COVID-related things, is my understanding. All those came through budget finance and were all recommended. Any questions about any of those? Y'all are quiet tonight. Notaries got 4 and 1 more that I forgot to write down. That's right. Can we add one to your notaries, Teresa Dickerson at the high school? She will be number 5. We may have some more, but right now we only have those 5. Randall Kirby with the Tennessee Department of Health, Johnny Beaver with Core Civic, Shannon Smith with the Sheriff's Department, Tracy Belcher at Citizens Bank, and Teresa Dickerson at the high school. That's the 5 we have at this point. Any other business, commissioners? Public, any comments from the public? Seeing none? Y'all all through, all done? Yes, sir.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Don't have a good evening.